Hello everyone, this is Dr. Naveed Ahmed Khan again, and in today's session we're going to talk about human resource process. Okay, human resource management is one of the important support department in organizations, right? So whether your organization is small or big, human resource management is one of the most important function performed in the organization, all right? So when you look at the historic perspective of the development of human resource management, you can see this before 1980s, human resource management was generally dealt with ensuring compliance with the government policies or dealing with labor union management. So mostly their practices were related to these two important activities. But after 1980s, you can see this human resource management was adopted as one of the important academic field. The field was further specialized, and we can see this number of new and contemporary concepts have been being taken care by human resource managers in the organization, which involves dealing with sexual harassment, workforce diversity, work-life balance, accessibility issues, gender issues, minority issues, right? So there are a lot of new ideas have been included in human resource practices. All right. Now, when it comes to human resource management, right, it generally involves identifying, attracting, and maintaining, developing human capital in the organization, right? So, if you look at this slide, it's talk about three important steps: identification and selection of right candidate, training and development, and retention. Now, under each section, right, there are certain activities need to be performed. So let's look at the first activity here, which is human resource planning, right? If you look at this human resource planning, right? So now question arises here, how are you going to start human resource planning in HR department? Like all other departments, such as marketing or finance, when they develop their departmental uh, policies, when they develop their department plans, they always look at the corporate level plans, right? So organizations might have got their growth. I mean, whether you talk about big organization or small, let's say we take the example of Tesla, for instance, and Apple, right, or Unilever, Procter & Gamble, or Walmart, right? They all have got some corporate level strategy. So, for instance, if you take the example of Tesla, recently you must have noted down that they have got this growth strategy. Growth in the sense they are expanding their product lines, they are expanding their geographical locations, right? Besides this, when you look at Apple, they are, every year they come up with different enhanced, modified products. Sometimes they introduce entirely new product. Right? Some organization uh, may find situation quite difficult and tricky for them, right? Especially when you remember what happened during the COVID time period, right? So there was a lot of uncertainty for large number of organizations. So they adopted a stability strategy. I mean, they neither retrenched nor they expand their businesses, right? So some organization might go for a stability strategy. We can develop our human resource plan, right? So for instance, if organization adopt the growth strategy, right? So we need to hire more employees. If organization adopts the retrenchment strategy, we need to lay off number of employees, right? So I mean, human resource policies are entirely dependent on corporate level policy. Now, once you are done with, when you start looking at your human resource planning, there are two important questions you need to ask. What would be my current policy and what would be my future policy, right? So you need to cater your current needs and the future needs. And it's very important that you sit with the departmental manager. I mean, for instance, your production manager needs to hire employees, 30 employees. So you need to sit with them, you need to define the jobs, You need to identify the behavior necessary to perform that job, right? So this would help you develop job description, which revolves around identifying duties, responsibilities uh, for the candidate who's going to perform that job. Besides this, this would also help you develop the job specification. Job specification means what kind of skills, knowledge, education, and abilities required to perform that job. All right. So job analysis help us identify two important aspects: job description and job specification. Once you have got this, it would help you, attract and select the right candidate for that job. All right. So once you're done with planning, the next step you can see here after human resource planning is recruitment, right? So assume that organization adopts the growth strategy, right? If they don't adopt the growth strategy, they might go for recruitment, right? So they might lay off employees, right? They might transfer employees, right? Or they might terminate employees. But assuming this organization has adopted growth strategy, so they might go for recruitment. So you might have got two important options here. Either you're gonna have internal pool of employees, or you can go for external search for the potential candidates, right? So for instance, when you have got internal pool of employees, you might give promotion to one of your preferred candidate or high performing candidate. Or for instance, if you go for external search, you might give advertisement in the newspaper, websites, or you might use employment agencies, right? You might ask them to advertise on your behalf, right? Or screen the candidates. So this is how you're going to go for this internal search or external search, right? Remember, both internal search and external search have got their own pros and cons, right? So for instance, when you hire or when you promote somebody from your internal department, it's going to increase or boost the morals of your employee, right? So employee with high morale, they are more loyal with the organization rather than those who feel that senior managers were hired externally, so they don't have a lot of potential in the organization, right? So your employee you might lose the loyalty of your employees, right? If you try to hire employees from through the external search, right? But on the other hand, think about if you try to promote the employee who has been associated with the organization for last 15 years, right? So you might miss on the new and innovative ideas which might be brought up by the fresh blood, right? So if you hire somebody from external source, they might come up with very exotic new ideas which could be very beneficial for you. I mean, you need to brainstorm this, you need to discuss this with your departmental manager, need to identify whether you're going to go for internal or external search. All right. So for instance, somebody need to hire a professional for marketing, so you need to sit with the marketing department, marketing manager, right? And then decide what would be the right approach. Next steps involve selection. You can see this. The third step here is selection, right? So once you have attracted the pool of candidates, then you're going to go for selection. So for selecting employees, you might use certain devices. I mean, selection device may include application form, written test, right? So application forms might help you screen the employees. Written test might help you identify the capabilities of certain employees. Or you might use interviews, right? Or background checks, or if the job is very physically demanding, then you might go for some physical examination, right? This is very important. Sometimes remember that you need to hire somebody for a specific job. I mean, you need to hire a technician, right? So it's not a good idea to have got interviews. You need to give them some work sample to fix up that machinery, for instance. Or if you hire, for instance, let's say uh, aircraft pilot, so you might take them to assessment centers and might give them different scenarios to deal with. We call them simulation test. So you might use simulation test to select right candidate for your organization. But again, remember, whatever tool you use, device you use, it must be valid. For hiring marketing people, right? It's not always a good idea to give them the written test. So interview the person. You need to see whether the person is very extrovert or not, communicative or not. So you might conduct interviews, right? So application test is not valid tool here. Similarly, if you are hiring somebody for technical position, right? It's not always a good idea to use written tests or interviews. You need to give them some work samples to fix that machinery, right? Similarly, besides validity, reliability is important. Reliability means giving out the consistent result, right? So every time you use a tool, the tool scans the candidate in such a way that it gives you the consistent result. Think about this. You give MCQs to candidates, and these MCQs are attempted by senior candidates who have got a lot of experience and those who don't have got any experience. If they have got same kind of result, right? So you can see this. It's not giving you. This is not a valid tool, first of all. Secondly, every time when they attempt this, they have got different weightage, different percentage, right? So it means it's not reliable as well. So the tool must be very consistent in giving right result. This is very important, right? Once you are done with this, then look at this next step in the process called training and development. Under training and development, there are two important steps here: orientation and training. So you have selected the right employee. So you might give them orientation. Depending upon the size of organization or the department, you might give them departmental orientation. If you are hiring somebody at senior position, you might give them organizational orientation, right? So besides this, next steps comes here as training, right? So in order to fill the gaps, right, you might offer some training programs to new employee, right? They might be based upon classroom lectures or job rotation. For instance, you hire them at a first level position, right? So for instance, you have hired them for a restaurant. So one day you might put them as a kitchen with the kitchen supervisor. Next day you might assign accounting activities, right? Or third day you might put them on customer service. The job rotation might give some idea that what kind of processes take place in the organization. Besides this, your organization, when it comes to training, your organization might offer classroom lectures based training programs, such as offering leadership workshops, or for instance, time management workshop, or for instance, you might give them some hands-on training on ERP system, right? So there are different modes of training. Now, once you are done with training, right, you have given the orientation, you have offered them the training. Now employee starts working in the organization. Here comes the third step, right, which involves retention of the employees, right? So there are these three important steps here: performance management, compensation benefit, and career development. So employee has started working in the organization, right? They have worked with the organization for a certain time period. Now it's time to evaluate their performance, right? So normally organization might have got this annual performance review program, right, where senior managers, peers, or subordinate of that employee might rate that employee, right? So there are different approaches, different tools organization might use to evaluate that employee. Some organization might use written essays. I mean, a senior manager write down an descriptive essay on one of their subordinate. I mean, vice president marketing is writing down an essay type report for their senior manager marketing or sales. So they just talk about their strengths and weaknesses, right? So this could be very specific in nature, but remember there are some limitations to this. You cannot write down written essay for large number of employees, right? So this must be used at the right level. Similarly, some organization might use a critical incidents technique. I mean, the departmental manager or project manager might use this approach that, for instance, you are working for supply chain management and 3 months back, organization sent you on one of the project to conduct negotiation with the supplier. So this was very critical incident for the organization, right? It involves a lot of business. So they're gonna see how basically you perform in that situation, whether you really work hard, you did your homework or not, or how was your negotiation. So they, instead of looking at generic attributes in you, they only gonna look at critical incidents, whether you remain profitable for the organization or not. The third step also, another approach we might use here is graphic rating scales, sometimes known as key performance indicators. So organization might have got these indicators such as honesty, leadership, technical know-how, right? So they might judge you based upon these generic parameters. Besides this, one of the approach used to evaluate employees called BARS, behaviorally anchored rating scale. So in which this is generally the combination of critical incident and graphic rating scale or KPI, right? So for instance, there are 2 and 3 events throughout the last year. So they're gonna rate them. So which event was most important for the organization and what was your performance, then they're gonna calculate the weightage. So you might use the BARS scale to evaluate employee. Besides this, organization might use multi-person comparison, which may include group order ranking, individual ranking, and paired comparison, right? Besides multi-person comparison, organization might use management by objective, right? Where before starting the project or assignment, you sit with that employee and you discuss that what kind of outcome can be achieved, what resources would be required, and then you have got some agreement with that employee that okay, that employee would attain this outcome with these resources, right? So you're going to see whether they attain this outcome or not, right? Another approach is called 360-degree appraisal, where employee is evaluated by their seniors, their peers, and their juniors. I mean their subordinates. So the organization generally going to get all this information and would develop a comprehensive report reflecting the performance of that employee. So this is performance management. So I said you might use written essays, BARS, multi-person comparison, management by objective, 360-degree appraisal, critical incidents, or graphic rating scales, generally known as KPIs. All right. Once you are done with this, you're gonna see whether that employee is an asset for your organization or not. You would try to, decide about the compensation and benefits to that employee. You would like to retain that employee, right? So, but remember, the compensation benefits generally depend upon certain factors. What are these factors? So these factors involve size of the organization. For instance, if you are working for a small organization, you cannot expect huge jump in compensation or benefits, right? Geographical location. For instance, if you are working in an organization which is located in developing country, you may expect different type of compensation comparison to those who are working in developed countries, right? With the same kind of organization. Besides this, your tenure with the organization, how long you've been working with that organization, type of industry. I mean, if you are in high-tech industry or software development industry, or for instance, automotive industry or banking sector, financial sector, right? So you might expect a huge jump, right? Besides this, profitability of the organization is an important factor, and kind of job performed. I mean, if you are working for the critical or resourceful function for the organization, I mean, if you are working in finance department, operational area, or for instance, supply chain department, right? So these are some of the key departments in the organizations. You might expect huge jump in compensation, right? Besides this, one of the factor which also impacts the compensation benefit is management philosophy, right? Or finally, we might say this, unionization is also very important, right? So this might have got, employee unions might have got serious impact on the amount of compensation and benefits offered to the employees, right? Now, if you look at this last component here, it's career development, right? So, for instance, organization would like to put you on the transition to the senior management, right? So they would generally go for your career development, right? So, but remember that, guys, career development is very critical for you to identify that how you can avail these opportunities, right? So I always tell my students, young learners, that select your first job very carefully, very judiciously, right? Always work hard, right? Present the right image. Try to find a mentor in the organization. Stay visible, right? And try to excel your skills in organizational resources, right? I mean, try to be an effective negotiator, right? Who could work out with suppliers and customers. Try to learn the power structure in the organization, right? Always support your boss, right? Stay mobile. Do a lot of networking in the organization, right? If you are working in, for instance, let's say, marketing department, especially in sales, try to learn something in research and development. I mean, marketing research and development, or for instance, try to get some experience in advertising, right? If you're working in inventory management, try to have got some fair idea about transportation and logistics, right? And procurement is very important, right? So always try to upgrade your skills, right? And I hope I try to explain all important components of human resource process. Thank you very much and have a good one, guys.